Folks, if you could all gather into your seats, we're about ready to get going here. We have a quorum, so we're going to open our meeting. Before we get going, I just want to say, for those who know me, I always say I never get sick, and I don't. I haven't missed a day of work in 21 years, but I got a cold on Thursday night, so my voice a little rough, sounds worse than it feels. Just bear with me. Thank you. If we could, let's stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get going, I'd just like, there's a bunch of people involved with town government. I'm going to let them introduce themselves this evening. We're going to start right over here with the Finance Committee. Just say who you are.
I'm Ruth Rivard.
And we'll go over here to the Board of Selectmen, Town Council et al.
Cassandra Murphy.
Bill Hewig, Town Council.
Denise Demkowski, Finance Director.
William Dunn, Board of Selectmen.
Ed Watson, Board of Selectmen.
Daniel MacDonald, Board of Selectmen.
Bill O'Neill, Board of Selectmen.
Mike Wood, Board of Selectmen.
And I understand up on the stage we have Maureen Lynch, the Whittier Superintendent. Before we get really rolling here, just there's a couple of housekeeping things we need to do. Ann Brody, our town clerk, could not be here this evening, so we have to vote a person to replace her, and we have someone in mind. She's willing to do it. There's a bunch of words I need to read, though, so just bear with me. The town clerk, Ann Brody, is unable to attend this evening's town meeting. Section 14 of Chapter 41 of the General Laws requires that in her absence, the first order of business in the election by ballot of a temporary town clerk. The temporary town clerk will be required to record all votes of the town meeting. The chair understands that Cassandra Murphy is willing and able to perform the duties of town clerk tonight. For the election, the town meeting is required to conduct. The person receiving the majority of votes of those present and voting is declared the winner. Therefore, if there's only one person's name in nomination, only one vote will be required to elect the temporary town clerk. Do I have a nomination for Cassandra Murphy to act as the temporary town clerk for the purposes of this town meeting?
I nominate Cassandra Murphy to be the town clerk for the evening.
Is there a second? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, the chair declares the nominations closed, and I'll ask for a vote to confirm the nomination. Do I hear a motion that the chairman of the select board cast one ballot for Cassandra Murphy?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will ask for a vote on the motion that the chairman of the select board cast one ballot.
I vote for Cassandra Murphy.
The chairman of the select board will cast one ballot, and per the general laws, the board will review that ballot and declare the election of the temporary town clerk. Select board declares the nominee to be elected. I declare that Cassandra Murphy has been elected temporary town clerk, and I'll administer the oath of office. So we have to do all this. You solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially perform the discharge of duties of the office of temporary town clerk to which you have been elected.
Yes.
Great. We're good to go. Thank you for bearing with us. And just again, a couple more things. Before we really get going, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen would like to address the town meeting.
I would like to welcome you all for coming out. Thank you all for coming out tonight and getting involved in our town meeting. Thank you to the Board of Selectmen for your continuous and committed work for the town of Groveland as a board. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Denise, our Finance Director, for keeping our finances in line and keeping us in check. Thank you to the Finance Board for the great job you've done this year, to do what you did to make our finances in check in the town. I'd like to thank Bill, the town moderator, for coming out tonight and moderating the town meeting. Lastly, I would like to thank all the volunteers and all the people in Groveland to make Groveland the great place it is. The Board of Selectmen is proud to inform you tonight that we have a balanced budget. We did not have to cut town budgets, and we stayed within Proposition 2.5. I would like to say Groveland is on a great road. Volunteerism is up. It's up by 95% on all boards and committees. I'd like to go over a couple of our accomplishments. The VC Park window we voted on last year is done, the project. We have purchased the ladder truck and it's finally in. We have the wall entrance and drainage study at the cemetery is done and complete. We have the land sales up on Salem Street that we now have 3 bids finally. We will probably be accepting and then turning that money into our reserves funds. The light department building was vacated, as everyone knows, and they've moved to a new location. Our board has voted to move the water department in there. It will free up town space, make the town hall more room and what have you to work out of. Greatly need it. The boat ramp is 90% done. We're waiting for the local hot top contractor. We got to renew his contract. He will be out to do the paving. The historical property survey is done and complete. We digitalized the historic documents. We got a new highway truck for the highway department. It's on the road, and it was out this winter working. We got the cemetery, a new utility truck. That's on the road, and they're using it. And we have many more accomplishments that we're very proud of. I'd like to make a couple notes. Groveland has 3 big projects going on this year. We have a water main replacement on Lower Water Street, Main Street, up to Salem Street. That project's going on. It's going to be a late fall finish if everything goes right. We have the Governor's Road project that's been going on, and it will be a late summer finish. And we have the Route 97 project out front here, which will be going on until late fall. You're all going to have to bear with it. There'll be some traffic delays and what have you, but it will be well worth it when we're all done. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. I would now like to turn the meeting over to the town moderator, Bill Dark. And thank you.
All right, let's get rolling. Town clerk.
To Jeffrey T. Gillen, Deputy Chief of Police of the Town of Groveland in the County of Essex. Greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town who are qualified to vote in a special town meeting to meet at the Dr. Elmer S. Bagnell School, 253 School Street on Monday, April 24th, 2017 at 7 o'clock p.m. to vote on the following articles.
All right. As we get going tonight, there's some articles that will require 2/3 vote. I will let you know what those are. If it is unanimous, I can declare it unanimous. I've been told if 1 or 2 people vote, in the non-prevailing way, that I can declare it unanimous. If it's 6 or 7, we have to have a count. I'm fine with whatever, but if it's not unanimous, we're going to be counting the 2/3 votes. And we have counters ready to go? Great. Okay. And we're going to start off with one. Article 1 requires 2/3 vote. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell by any lawful means, upon such terms and conditions and for such consideration as the Selectmen deem appropriate, the following parcels of town-owned land. Lot parcel 41-055-K, 3.9 acres, 894 Salem Street. You can see the assessed value of $113,100, or take any other action relative thereto. Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action. Finance Board recommends favorable action. Do we have a motion?
Move favorable action.
Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. All right, unanimous. Passes. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to transfer $30,000 from the fiscal year 2016 town free cash to the Bagnell School Building Improvements account. You can see the account number there, or take any other action relative thereto. Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action. Finance Board recommends favorable action. Do we have a motion? Do you have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Unanimous, passes. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer $15,000 from fiscal year 2016 town free cash to the fiscal year 2017 snow and ice removal account. Again, you can see the number there, or take any other action relative thereto. The Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action. Finance Board recommends favorable action. Do we have a motion?
Move favorable action.
Second? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Unanimous. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $50,000 from the fiscal year 2016 Sewer Enterprise Department retained earnings to offset the fiscal year 2017 long-term debt and interest, or take any other action relative thereto. This article was submitted by the Water and Sewer Commissioners. The Water and Sewer Commissioners recommend favorable action. The Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action. Finance Board recommends favorable action. Do we have a motion?
Move favorable action.
Moved and seconded for favorable action. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Unanimous, passes. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to make the following transfers or take any other action relative thereto. $10,000 from Northeast Vocational Technical Assessment to legal expense to cover initial funding shortfall. $30,000 from veteran benefits to legal expense to cover initial funding shortfall. $12,000 from employee group health insurance to legal settlement line to cover initial funding shortfall. $8,450 from Conservation Commission expense to Conservation Commission salary part-time to cover initial funding shortfall. $1,200 from cemetery parts expense to cemetery utilities expense to cover initial funding shortfall. $7,500 from highway part-time salary to highway overtime to cover initial funding shortfall. $7,200 from employee group health insurance line to property and casualty insurance line to cover initial funding shortfall, and $3,000 from utilities to postage to cover initial funding shortfall. The article was submitted by various departments by request. The Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action. The Finance Board recommends favorable action. Do we have a motion?
Move favorable.
And a second? Any discussion? Yeah, and if you could, there's mics. How many mics do we have? We've got two. If you could just state your name and what you have to say.
My name's Charles Harrislack, 94 Main Street. I add up here $40,000 in additional legal expenses and $12,000 to a legal settlement. My first question is, what was our budget for legal expenses in the last fiscal?
Who'd like to answer that? Finance?
We can address that. The legal budget is in your omnibus, and let me just get my eye on it. We are actually recommending an increase in it because of this overages. This is not the first time. So the legal budget voted for fiscal 2017 was $40,000, but if you look in the column for what was spent in 2016, you'll see that we actually spent $84,589. And so in reviewing this and in discussions with the finance director as far as legal expenses of towns similar to ourselves, we realized that our legal budget is too low for the complexity of town business, and we are recommending in the omnibus to increase it to $65,000 in the new year. So this hopefully wouldn't happen again.
Okay, so in this particular case, in all these cases here, what legal expenses were actually used in court? What might have been fees to lawyers to rewrite zoning bylaws, for example, or whatever the other cases might be? There's nothing itemized here, so it's sort of all rolled into one. So what if there's certain things that there's some disagreement in? Do you have any detail on what these additional expenses were? Like if when we had the thing that we had to pay a bunch of money to Haverhill because there was a court issue, it was a lot of money, $500,000 or something like that. You stated exactly what that was for. On here, on these legal expenses, there are overages, and you're asking to transfer accounts. It's just a line item. We don't know what it actually went toward.
Do you want to go?
Yes.
The lawyer.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, in response to the question, I can't give you a line by line on how much money was spent for this case or that case, but it has been an unusual year. We had a contract claim we settled. And we've had some litigation involving the cemetery commissioner's unusual case, a fight over what family members are going to be able to be buried in what plot. We've had some zoning cases. We always have legal expenses that are involved in town meeting, preparing the the warrant articles and doing that sort of research. And we also had a fair amount of legal expenses that were incurred this year in assisting to rewrite and reorganize the zoning bylaws.
Do we have an amount specifically on that?
I can't give it to you now. It could be calculated. I mean, we can push a button on a computer and get it for you, but I didn't bring that with me, and I can't address that, the exact amounts.
Okay, I don't have any more questions about it.
Okay. Other discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Majority passes. All right, so we're good with that. We need a motion to dissolve the special town meeting. Would somebody like to make that motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor of dissolving special town meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. I guess technically we have to wait about 6 minutes here, right? We are posted for 7:30 for our annual town meeting to begin. So just, if you go anywhere, be back in 6 minutes.